Hello, universe. Josh here. This is a response to a thought experiment on constructing meaning from written text. If you wish to participate in the thought experiment, do not watch this response. Turn the video off right now until after you've participated, until after you've got the instructions from Scoutie, to whom this will be a video response. There is a high probability that watching my response video will affect your experience. That's verbatim that she told me to say. So anyways, I think I can start. I haven't looked at this text yet, so here we go. We'll see what it is. And if it's something dark and scary, I won't post the video, but okay. Alright, let's begin. Start Think Aloud here. Conflict of circadian rhythmicity with that of the environment arises when the environmental synchronizers are weakened, disappear completely, or change their period length. This occurs in submarine and space operations and with partial removal from external periodic inputs, as in the Arctic, though in man the clock, hour, and day time-related social activities are important synchronizers. Rest and activity patterns are also out of phase with the environment in shift workers, particularly when night work is undertaken. Yeah, I work shift work, and I find that it kind of messes me up a little bit, my sleep patterns. You know, you get used to it, I guess. Conflict of circadian rhythmicity. Yeah, I understand that. That's your cycles of waking and sleeping, etc. I mean, I don't know that much about biology. With that of the environment, yes, has to do with the sun. I live in a northern climate in northern BC, so we have a widely varying cycle, I guess. In the summer it's light until very late at night, and in the winter it's dark most of the day. I think that my latitude's along the same lines of Denmark, and the reason I'm thinking of Denmark now is because Scientific Discussion is, I believe, is Danish, and I've been watching his video. I know he's also participating in this project, so I'm thinking of that. In submarine and space operations, I'm thinking, yeah, submarine, underwater, space, outer space, yes, that's all true. Partial removal from external periodic inputs, as in the Arctic. Oh yeah, there. Yeah, I was just talking about my latitude. Though in man, the clock, hour, and day time-related social activities are important synchronizers. Yeah, I understand that. That makes sense to me. Rest and activity patterns are also out of phase with the environment in shift workers. Yeah, and I talked about that. Okay, moving on, next paragraph. Transmeridian flights involve displacements across latitudes and produce rapid and often large time zone changes. The sudden shift disengages, okay, we're talking about jet lag. The sudden shift disengages the environmental and biological rhythms and is also likely to lead to disturbed sleep. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know why, but I think that everyone kind of has their niche, or their, you know, the cycle, I guess. I wouldn't even know where to go to research that, though. I would start at Wikipedia, I guess, and see what sources they could point me to. Subjectively, most people complain of tiredness, impaired appetite, and a general loss of well-being, while sleepiness is experienced at inconvenient times. I agree with that. Sleepiness is experienced at inconvenient times. This often, I'm thinking of instances where, yes, I was sleepy, but I was able to kind of slap myself in the face, or do something to that effect to basically wake myself up. You know, have a jolt of caffeine, like have a coffee or an energy drink. But moving on, sleepiness is experienced at inconvenient times. Yeah, inconvenient in some ways. But yeah, as I said before, if the, oh, now I'm thinking of temperature, and if the room is warm, usually that tends to make people want to fall asleep, and if they're in a comfortable chair, it's easier to be sleepy. So that's not I mean, that, yes, circadian has something to do with that, but I think there's other factors. Desynchronization of the environmental and biological rhythms also influences performance at certain times of the day. Performance is impaired in the late afternoon. Okay, I'm imagining the studies that they did in order to come to this conclusion, and I'm just going to assume that they did some kind of test, and I'm thinking that performance that they actually measured probably was a very small. It says performance is impaired. The difference was probably actually quite small, is what I'm thinking. I mean, I know I've done little tests on the computer, like when I was applying for the Air Force. There was like a cognitive like awareness, an alertness test on the computer where you click on certain things on the screen, and I scored very high on that, I suppose because I happened to be awake and ready to go. And that was interesting because that was on a trip to Toronto, which is 3 hours out of sync with BC. But I suppose that's not enough for serious major jet lag. That was just interesting. Performance is impaired in the late afternoon and early night of at least the first day after flights in a westerly direction, and in the morning and afternoon after traveling eastwards. Okay, fair enough. That all makes sense to me. Yeah. The desynchronization of circadian rhythms associated with transmeridian flight has been examined in several studies. Okay, here's the studies that I was thinking of already. Did I look ahead to studies? No, I didn't, but maybe I saw it out of the corner of my eye. I think I've genuinely expected that from the previous paragraph. After westbound flights, the curve of circadian rhythmicity is displaced to the left of that of the environmental changes, and after eastwards flight to the right. Okay, now I have to... I always get confused when I'm reading about left and right. So, after westbound flights, that's flights, say, from Toronto to BC, the curve of circadian I don't get it, of circadian rhythmicity is displaced to the left of that of the environmental changes, and after eastward flights to the right. This still isn't making sense to me. I have to read this particular sentence several times before I can understand it completely. I don't know what they're talking about when they say the curve. Like, I guess it's a curve on a graph, but I'm not picturing any kind of a graph in my head. I'm also trying to go kind of fast in reading this, so maybe if I slowed down a little bit and wasn't so... Okay, I wasn't so intent on finishing in a quick period of time, maybe I could get through this and understand it. Displaced to the left of the environmental changes. I still don't understand what it means by to the left. I guess maybe on a map, like with north at the top, and left would be the west. So if you travel west, then your circadian rhythmicity is displaced to the left. I'm sorry, I don't understand that. I'd need a graph. Maybe it's like a sine wave, probably, is what I'm thinking. I have no idea. Maybe later I'll figure it out, but I'm just going to leave that for now. And eastward flights to the right. I think I have an idea of what that means. You're basically, like, even though you're in BC, you're living your life as if you're in Ontario, and vice versa if you travel the other way. And then you have to... Okay, yeah, it is a sine wave because we're talking next sentence. The amplitude may be altered, and sometimes a rhythm may disappear. Interesting. Re-entrainment of rhythms to the new environment occurs gradually and with body temperature begins with the first sleep in the new zone. Okay, I guess I'll take their word for that. They must have done a study. Circadian rhythm, I guess, has a lot to... You know, I don't understand any of this stuff about biology. I mean, I understand it. I don't really get it. Body temperature... Okay, sure, body temperature changes. I don't know